Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's your girl Precious Molepo back with another video. As you can see by the title, today I'm going to be answering every single question that I promised to make a separate video about. So as we're fast approaching the end of the year, I realized maybe my promises were a bit too unrealistic to have a separate video for comments that I received, like content requests on. So I decided, why not create a Q&A video on all those questions that I received from you guys and release this before the end of October, because I know that final exams are fast approaching or underway depending on what institution you're in. I hope that there's minimal editing here because I want this video out as soon as possible. Because of the type of questions, they might be a part 2. But let's hope that we can get this all in one video. Before we jump into the video, you guys, I do want to say I know I've been MIA. I have been on the most hectic audit. But look out for that video. I'm going to get into more detail on that. Secondly, thank you so much for all the new subscribers that I've received. I still can't believe last year I was saying, hey guys, thank you for 2 subscribers, thank you for 5 subscribers. I think I'm going to insert that video over here if I can find it. And thank you so much to the new 3 subscribers. I'm sitting on 7 subscribers, guys. I'm so excited. So road to 10 subscribers. Celebrate the little things. I'm currently, as I record this video, sitting on 734 subscribers. Thank you so much, you guys. I really appreciate the love. I really appreciate the support. Let's jump straight into the video. Let's jump straight into your questions. So the first question I'm going to jump into, so I took screenshots of the comments. This was regarding my 8 mistakes that I made in my first attempt of CTA video. So the question was, when I said focusing on question banks, do you mean we should only revise, which means go through the slides and then jump into the question banks? This person says, because honestly, the volume of the work is insane. The videos, the textbooks, the slides, then questions bank, which is challenging. It's literally impossible to do everything thoroughly. So she asked 2 questions, but let's tackle that first question first. Yes, so I think in CTA, put aside perfectionism. There's no time to be a perfectionist. Time is ticking. The pressure's on. So no, don't be a perfectionist. You don't have to do everything thoroughly. I think the first stage, because obviously you're going to go through the content in different waves. Like the first time you see it, then you're gonna do it again, then probably a 3rd time just before you write your first assessment on it, but then you're gonna revise it throughout the year, so you're gonna have seen that content again and again and again. So definitely the first time you see it, you are going to want to go through the slides, go through the module, go through the lecture, and it doesn't have to be thoroughly. You want to familiarize yourself with the information, and that doesn't have to be thoroughly, because it's not like you're going to only see this information once and only once. So on that, forget perfectionism. You don't have to, the first time you see slides, you want to memorize it. You don't have to do that. My approach was definitely getting through, the slides, the module, etc., and as soon as possible going to the question banks. As soon as possible failing or getting a mark on those question banks, whether it was 2 out of 10, whatever the case, but starting and jumping into that question bank as soon as possible after going through the content, so that I could improve my marks, so I could get feedback from myself, which is when I'm marking my question bank, and then I get feedback. Because like I mentioned in that video, being scared of jumping into the question bank does not help. I think at a postgraduate level, you shouldn't be, like I mentioned in that video, writing out the slides. So you shouldn't be writing out the slides. You shouldn't be, you know how we did in undergrad, where we're like, put color, we're literally writing out the slides word for word. There's no time for that. Read the slides to comprehend and keep it moving. So the same person continued that question and said, also time management. How did you make sure that you cover everything you're supposed to cover for every module and even do questions? Lovely question. How did I make sure I covered everything? I didn't, to be quite honest. Let's say, for example, when we're looking at an accounting module, let's say impairment, for example, I would go through the lecture. I would sit through the lecture and take detailed notes. This was obviously when it was the study from home, but when I did my BCTA, that was in person, so I can also make reference to that. But during the lecture, I would make sure my phone is off, because that's your biggest enemy. Especially that thing of you in the lecture, you're sitting, you want to record it, and then you're going to go home and listen to the recording again. Also a waste of time, because you are now having that 2 hours. So what, you're going to just sit and scroll through social media? It makes no sense. It's a waste of time. So I'll make sure my phone was switched off. I would record the lecture just for parts that I missed, but I would make sure that I was well rested for that lecture so that I can focus. Also, what helped my focus was taking notes, and literally as the lecturer was speaking, I would write down almost word for word what he's saying. This helped me with my understanding of what he's saying, but most importantly, it helped me stay focused for the entire lecture, because some people will be like, why would you waste your time to write word for word? But you're constantly listening. You're listening, you're writing, you're listening, you're writing. You're not like, your mind is not wandering off and, oh, I like that girl's shoes, or you know what I mean? So it really, really helped me stay in the groove of the lecture and hear the lecturer. It also really helped me when I studied after that lecture and I saw things that he made reference to. I could literally compare word for word what he said in the lecture to what the module says, and I can reconcile any differences. So I would start from the lecture, then taking word for word, then I'd go to the module when I get home. So when I go to the module, I'm consolidating what the lecturer said. Already, like, the information is in my head because I was super focused. I understood. Where I didn't understand, very important, I made a mark in my notes. I made like a stop so I can ask somebody. This sentence that he said, I don't understand what he's saying. Obviously, as you're listening to the lecture, you're asking yourself, does this make sense to me? He's saying ice cream melts in the freezer. I'm not going to just write that down. I'm going to be like, wait. Apply your mind while you are in the lecture. Wait, ice cream melts in the freezer? How? Okay, then I'm going to listen to the next things he's going to say. If it's still not making sense, ice cream melts in the freezer. But now the lecture has moved on. Nobody stopped to ask the question. Let's say I'm too shy, for example, to ask a question. I'm going to make a note. What do you mean ice cream melts in the freezer? And I'll consult on that. Very important. Or while I'm going through the module, that question might be answered. Maybe the module might elaborate and say, ice cream melts in the freezer because of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the next question was, hey sis, I would like to ask if Psycha funds PGDA at Unisa and how long does it take to complete? I have no idea. I did not study at Unisa. But if any one of you guys watching this can answer that, please do in the comments below. How long does PGDA take? I'm assuming you're asking. I think at Unisa they actually do level 1, level 2. But I think level 1 is BCTA, which is the bridging into CTA. Yes. So it takes 2 years. Hey Perish, so in terms of the material that is released weekly, did you only go through the videos? When did you go through the textbook modules, etc.? So when it came to lectures at UJ, I don't know about now, but last year they basically released course content for, okay, so let's say for example, accounting impairment. They'll tell you, okay, this week, now we sit on Monday, they'll tell you this week, as in from Tuesday, we're going to release video 1, video 2, video 3 of impairment. Then obviously, if the impairment lecture has started, you'd have the slides, you'd have the question bank, and you would have the module or the course information. Then they would do the same for tax, and they would do the same for finance, and they would do the same for accounting. for tax, finance, and auditing. So basically, your question is, Did I just go through the video? No. So in my first attempt, I did just go through the video. I was literally just watching the lectures and doing nothing else. But obviously when it's time to prepare for the exams, you're setting yourself up for disaster. So what I would do is I would watch the video attentively. Then after that video, I would go through the course information, and like I mentioned, I would reconcile what was said in the lecture and what was said in the information provided. If there's anything that's missed in my notes, I would add it, right? Like something that's in the module that wasn't spoken about in the lecture, I would add it to my notes. Then I would do my basic examples, and then I would probably do one question bank. So if it was tight, like if there was a lot of work, I'll probably just do one question bank, but the goal was to have touched everything. The process is basically lecture, course information to the module, basic examples, question banks. So each week that is released, I would make sure that I'm up to date before the new topic comes out. So if, for example, they say, okay, impairment is going to be lectured over 2 weeks, that is in my favor, because then I can kind of bench accounting a little bit, because if I run behind this week, I still have next week to catch up on going through the lecture, then the module, then the basic examples, then the question bank, and then the consultation. But if it was only taught within 1 week, I would make sure I was done by Sunday or by Saturday with going through those things. After I do that, I make sure I have a question list with all my questions for consultation, and I would send those questions out Monday the following week. I was very disciplined in that I really pushed to make sure that I stuck with that. At worst, like worst case scenario, if I did fall behind, I only fell behind by 1 week, which means we're going into the next week and I'm not done with the other week stuff. And I would make sure that is the maximum that I fell behind. I didn't fall behind 3, 4, 5 weeks thinking I would catch up in my study break. So this question was basically asking, what did I do in the second attempt better to help me pass? Oh, there was quite a lot of things that I did in my second attempt. I think it's a consolidation of all the videos that I understand this question because I did say mistakes I made in my first attempt, and that was at the beginning of my second attempt. So it would actually make sense for me to make a video saying what helped me pass, or what's something that I changed in my second attempt that helped me pass. It was, I don't even think, even now if I list it, I might forget stuff. I don't think there's like a consolidated 10 things that I did. It was a lot of stuff, but something that I feel helped at the top of my head was to stay on top of my workload. So like I mentioned, I would only be 1 week behind maximum, whereas in my first attempt I could go like 4 weeks. Like literally, I think the first, I don't want to call it term, but like before the first assessment, I was just watching the lectures and I was like, no way, like after I watched the lectures, I'm KO, I'm exhausted. So how am I going to watch the lectures and still have time to study? No. Maybe the formula is watch the lectures, then come when it's time to prepare for assessments, I'm going to go and prepare for those assessments, which was obviously incorrect. Now I know. So stay on top of your work. Make sure that each week that course is released. First of all, before I continue, I know it sounds hectic, but nobody said it's going to be easy. And there's no shortcuts. Each week course is released. Make sure that you get through all of the things that are released. I also had a study group, which was amazing. It helped. Like it was like you're always cooped in your room and you're always studying. So it really helped see a different perspective of what you're studying. You can see impairment. Impairment is insert definition, but someone else might see or perceive it, or interpreted in a different way. So it's really nice to now go have conversations with people that might view it in a different way, or after you write an exam, speak to someone that got a mark that you didn't get and see how they got it and why you didn't get it, what was their train of thought, etc. That really, that was amazing. And we also did ITC papers throughout the year with my study group, to the point where that was sufficient enough for us to pass ITC. And come like the end of the year, December, January, we didn't even have to study for ITC. At the beginning of December, it was listening to the check-ins, because with the board course there was like those, hey, so this week we're going to do this. There's these live classes that we listen to. But to now sit down and go through questions and do past papers, we did not do. I even went like away to the beach. And the week before ITC, I think that's when my friend and I were like, oh my gosh, what if we fail? You know, we haven't touched anything. But it turns out the preparation that we did, the little steps that we did throughout CTA really helped us, and we passed ITC. I am doing CTA UJ. Which books do you recommend for me to buy for someone with no funding? This person is asking which books are a waste of money and that we don't use. So definitely for me, I would say your financial management books, I wouldn't buy those. So the ones I would recommend are accounting standards, auditing standards, and legislation, such as your tax legislation, because those you actually take into your exam, you flag them, etc. But as for, I think there was an accounting book, I don't know, what did it say? It was some, not accounting standards, but it was like a book, accounting book that had like theory in it. I wouldn't buy that. Then there was an auditing book that had questions in it. So they gave you questions. Then this auditing book gave you questions. I wouldn't recommend that as well, because the questions that they gave were so different to the ones that the examiners said. So accounting standards, auditing, and legislations is what I would buy if I'm looking to save money on textbooks and still pass. So please make a video on finding articles and types of questions they ask during interview. Alright, so how did I find articles? I just went on to, so I'm doing my articles at one of the big four companies, big four audit firms. So I just went onto their website and I was referred to someone. So somebody sent out some referral campaign poster of, hey, let me refer you to this audit firm, and I sent my stuff, my CV, my academic record. This person sent it to, because it was a referral campaign, and I got an interview, and the kind of questions that they asked were basically questions that I wouldn't have expected, to be honest. Stuff like, how do you stay innovative? What was the last what was something that you achieved that made you proud, right? Your biggest achievement that made you proud. How do you stay in touch with current affairs? But I don't think it's the way that you answer the questions. I mean, I don't think it's what you're saying in those answers. I think it's the way that you're answering the questions. I definitely think it's a personality thing. I think there needs to be some sort of confidence, and needs to be some sort of social, like this person needs to be socially in tune. Like, you need to have social communication skills. I think that's what they look at. Personally, obviously other people say different things, but yeah, no, I definitely think that. I want to make a comparison while we're on this topic. So before I got into BCTA, I went for an interview at a firm that was an auditing firm, but it wasn't the big four. I went on to this interview, and at the time, my thinking was, when you go into interviews, you need to be, I don't know why, but you need to be polite. Everybody likes polite. Everybody likes soft. Everybody likes someone that you can give an instruction to and they're going to do that instruction. Nobody likes outspoken. Nobody likes someone that's going to have their own opinions. Nobody likes, you know what I mean? So I went into that interview. I made sure like I looked good. I made sure I looked professional. And I went in and answered the questions. But they were like, oh, you seem like a very shy person. And I'm not a shy person, but that's what they took from me because I was really quiet. I didn't, like, I wasn't outspoken in the questions they asked me. For example, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I was kind of looking for the right answer to say. I wasn't being honest in that I'm showing my personality. I was just saying, okay, shucks, what's the right answer to say? They asked me if I drank alcohol. And immediately when they asked this question, I was thinking to myself, damn, what's the right answer? Instead of what's the real answer, I was thinking, what's the right answer? From an employer's perspective, obviously you're not going to want your employees to drink, is what I was thinking. So I said, no, I don't drink. And because I was thinking, okay, no, because I don't want them to think like I'm ruthless or irresponsible, etc., I was like, no, I don't drink. But this person was asking that because obviously they have drinks or social events at the office, and they wanted to see if I would be able to fit into their work culture. So now me looking for the right answer instead of just answering and showcasing my personality counted against me. I thought I was being respectful. I thought I was being respectful, reserved, someone that can carry out orders without, having an opinion, just to put it bluntly. Didn't work in my favor compared to when I had this interview with the Big Four audit company. I was very outspoken, and I have to be honest, a friend of mine did give me tips because she went to a Big Four audit interview before I did. So she did say, like, listen, the people that I saw were picked were the people that were outspoken and the people that had personality and that were social and that knew how to communicate. So no, when I went into that interview, I spoke. Like, they were like, how do you stay in touch with current affairs? I wasn't just like, oh, I watch the news. I was like, oh no, like on my way to lectures, I listened to 702. Yes, they speak about investment. Oh, did you see the Sassel share? It was a nice conversation. Basically, the point is not to give the correct answer, just give the right answer. And please do a video on how you studied or approached financial accounting in CTA. It would really help. Financial accounting. Like I mentioned, I watched. Okay, so this is one way I put a lot of faith in, because at the beginning of the year, even in my second attempt, I just wasn't over the 50% mark. So let's say for my first few assessments, I still was like, I wasn't passing. I was like sitting on a 45, 48. This was before the mid-year exams. So I just I think my recipe there was consistency. I could see that I wasn't too far away. I went through my papers to see what I did wrong. I wrote it down and said, okay, if this question comes again, I know this is how I'm going to fix it. But there's always that risk of they might never ask that question again or that type of question again. But you don't want to take a chance if they do. So I'd always go through my question papers to see what I did wrong. And I kind of just kept it consistent in that I watched lectures. I took detailed notes on lectures, consolidated to my module. I did the basic examples, and I jumped into question bank. You don't have to, by the way, you don't have to do all your questions in your question bank or your questions that are prescribed to you. You have a whole year of revision that you'll have time to do your questions in. So you don't have to now go and do all 10 questions in your impairment module on the week you have impairment released to you. You can do 1 question, 2 questions, and kind of spread it out. It doesn't have to be immediately. So I did then the question bank, then the consults. So I saw that I was struggling with it. I was struggling to push it over 50. So I actually went and I scheduled, because with us we had to schedule like meetings if you wanted to have a one-on-one consultation with the academic trainees. So I went and I scheduled meetings with the academic trainees for accounting, because I knew that was a subject I was struggling to push over 50. And I made sure to do it even when I didn't have questions. So I made sure I scheduled once a week some time to go sit with an accounting academic trainee, even if it's a stupid question where I'm like, okay, this journal, like the textbook says 500,000, but my calculation says 480,000. There's 20,000 off, or there's R1 off, whatever's like, even if it's a little thing that that's not sitting nice with you, I asked, or nice with me, I went and I asked about it, right? And this was more to encourage me to have a positive relationship with accounting. 1, 2, you kind of gauge, especially when you're not familiar with like the testing styles, you kind of gauge how like, let's say for example, if I go and say, oh my gosh, I'm really struggling with change from, what's that other, non-current asset held for sale, with that calculation where they reverse the impairment, but it's limited to what the depreciation would have been if no impairment had taken place. And you really stress about it, you come with that question and they're like, oh no, that's at an awareness level, for example. Then already oh, okay, I don't have to stress about that. Like, I'm stressing about that for nothing. Or if she was like, oh yeah, no, that's super important, let me explain it to you, then like you're covering that and it's super important. But they kind of give you guidance on what is tested and what isn't tested. So I made sure that I scheduled meetings. Also, by scheduling it in advance, I also kind of pushed myself to go look for questions that I had, because it was already scheduled. I didn't cancel any. I actually want to have a question. You don't want to look like a fool. So that really pushed me to go through my work and find a question or find things that I was uncomfortable with. I'll be doing BCom accounting in 2 years time, and I was wondering which chartered accounting bursaries I should know about. Unfortunately, I'm not sure. When I had the interview with Nolutando, she did say she was on IDC, Industrial Development Concepts, I think the company's called. So you can just Google that and see if they still offer bursaries for CTA or BCTA. Hey Presh, hope you're well. Did you start your articles in Jan or February, or did you get the whole of Jan off to prepare for ITC? So obviously this applied specifically to this year because ITC was in January, and I don't know when ITC is going to be next year. But I was part of the January startup people who started their articles in Jan, but they are February starting a group of starting people as well. But I think it depends on what institution you're in and when you wrote your exams and when the results are coming out. Also, if you have any supplementary exams. So yes, I started in January, but they made us take leave for the whole of January. So we started effectively on February, but we were employed from Jan, so we got paid in Jan. So yes, I had the whole of January off to prepare for ITC. Did you have to get 60% and above for your CTA to get into the Big Four? No. I don't know what the criteria is with regards to marks when it comes to the Big Four. There's hem about it, but no one really knows. But there are no minimum requirements. So when you do apply, they don't tell you, okay, no, you can only apply if you have these minimum requirements. I've also seen them taking people that have failed or that have recovered close to the end of the year. So this is also the reason why I really feel that it's a personality thing, and how you communicate in that interview and how you sell yourself. If you're open or if you're introverted, etc. I think they take more open people because you deal with clients, you talk to clients on a daily basis. In client meetings, you're going to be interacting with them. So I think they really, and also you interacting with members in your team as well. So yeah, I do think it's a personality thing, but I'm not 100% sure. So actually, I applied to one of the Big Four auditing firms before I got accepted into this one, and they did say that my tax mark, they were worried about it, that's why I didn't get accepted. So I applied to this one I'm in. then they took me. Then I was worried that I went to the first one that I got accepted in. So I applied to the first one that had a problem with my tax mark, but this was at the end of the year when I had already passed CTA, and I got an interview. So I think at the beginning of the year, their standards can be quite high in the sense that, okay, no, they look at marks, etc. But towards the end of the year, especially when people have some people have failed that have been given contracts, and there's some sort of numbers that they need to achieve. Like in audit, they need quite a few trainees, and if they don't have those numbers, I think the standard or criteria does relax a little, in my opinion. Alright guys, I think I want to cut it short and stop the video there before it becomes too long. So that's going to be part 1 of me answering all the questions that are sitting in my comments. I really want to wrap them up, so when we go into next year, I go in with a clean slate, no unfulfilled promises of me recording videos. So that is the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching. I actually do want to start putting my Instagram handle, because when times do get busy like this, and let's say for example there's something important happening like a final or September exam, I feel like it's so much easier for me to hop onto Instagram, for example, and like record a video wherever I am and not have to sit, record it, edit it, and then release it. So I think it's more instant, which could be great. So if you're interested, follow me on my Instagram at Presh Molepo. No, Molepo's not there. Molepo. I'll write it here. At Presh Molepo. Give me a follow. Yeah, and drop any questions that you have additional to the ones that I've answered already, and I could add that to the part 2 of this Q&A video. Can't wait to see you in my next video. Bye.